Hello and welcome back to a freezing cold episode of Kibble Watches. It has got absolutely freezing here in the UK and we're expecting snow any minute, which is kind of nice. It's been a while, I think, since we've seen a nice amount of snow. Anyway, that's not what you're here for, are you? You're here to see today's drop. 12 incredible watches on the table, ranging from an interesting and super cool Piaget with a very nifty party trick, over to a bronze Seagull limited edition with a swan neck regulator, which Studio Underdog have just done on their latest batch. A super cool limited Kurono Tokyo, nice vintage Caravelle. There really is a Panerai. I mean, there's something for everyone on the table today, as I try to do every single week. Now, for those of you that are new here, welcome. My name is James. I run Kibble Watches, and every single Saturday, 9:30 AM UK time, I put new watches on the website, usually around 12 watches, sometimes a little less. And they will vary from a couple of £100, sometimes up to tens of thousands of pounds. From vintage to modern, pre-owned to new, pretty much everything you can imagine. Now, if you are here just to see one specific watch, let's say you want to see this cool Caravelle, down in the description, each watch is listed with a timestamp, so you can skip straight to that. And also a link to the website where you can see all the further details, the additional photos, and the price if it's available, and to purchase, of course. So everything is there. Now, I do want to say we are coming close to the end of November already. I don't know where this year has gone. It has been insane. So probably next Saturday, I'll be announcing Christmas hours, as in when I will be closing, what the final order dates are for the UK and for international. And unfortunately, that first week of December, I think I'll be in on the Monday, then the Tuesday, which I think is December the 3rd. From then, I will likely be out of office that week for a small surgery, I guess. And then I'll be back, hopefully, all being well, maybe even that Friday, but likely the following Monday. So I just want to preempt that. I'm working to still have a drop and still have everything done as usual, but just letting you know there will be a delay and likely a week where I can't do appointments or ship watches, so I apologise in advance, but I'll announce everything officially next week and set it in stone. So now that all of that is out of the way, what's on wrist? I'm wearing a watch that I've waited a while for, and I'm very glad to have it. It is the Archon Ulterium. I forget the name every time, but this is the Dragon for the year of the Dragon, limited to 60 watches total, and I was lucky enough to be one of the 60 chosen. Year of the Dragon is when my son has been born, but also I'm having, granted it's Japanese, but a Japanese leg sleeve done as we speak, and right now we're finishing the Dragon, so a few little relations to the Dragon there. I absolutely love it. I think it looks great. I would love to get the bracelet for it, which is on the other model, which I just haven't had. So if you have one and want to sell it, let me know. But anyway, that's enough of that. So let's crack on with what you're here to see. We're going to start with the watches. I've got to start with one of the coolest watches, I think, on the table, and that is this Piaget Upstream. So let's take a closer look and look at the nifty little feature this watch has. So starting this week off with the awesome Piaget Upstream. This is a very nice automatic sort of sport / dressy watch. I guess it merges the two worlds nicely and offers something very, very unique. You've got a very attractive slate grey dial with angular sword hands, exploding sort of Art Deco. I don't know what you'd call them actually. They're probably not Art Deco, but very unique looking numerals. I mean, just look at number 9 right there and how they've decided to do that. I think that's really, really cool. Date nicely placed down there at 6 o'clock. Very, very simple. You've got crown at 3 o'clock, Piaget sign, and then you've got this beautiful sort of brick bracelet. Almost looks like a nice bar of chocolate. And as you rotate it around, you'll see it's absolutely effortless in its sort of seamless design. And you can, where's the opening, right? Like, it looks like there's no opening. You've got screws there. Do you have to unscrew? For those of you that have seen this watch before, this is probably very boring, me trying to sort of hype it up, but here you go. So the way it works is you pull down the top. The top of the watch, or the case itself, is the clasp. How cool is that? That is not something you see every day, and I have to be honest, I don't really know of any other watches that have quite done it just like this. So when you open it up, you can see these two intersecting parts of milled stainless steel that are connected together and fold back in on itself and clip down. So the way you put it on wrist, you open it up, put it on wrist, and then fold over like so. That's how it works. And then to get it off, obviously you pull it open again, and voila. Very, very cool. Upstream, proudly stated along the side there, so when you've got it down, you can't actually see it, it's hidden. And as we flip the watch over to show the screw down case back, all signed with everything as you'd expect. This is a reference 27050, and inside this is a automatic Piaget caliber 504P, and the watch is from the circa 2000s and comes with its original 2000s Piaget box. Now those are they're very nice looking boxes, but like a lot of boxes from that period, whether it be Piaget, Breitling, Tag Heuer, even Patek, whatever leather or material they used, it just sort of flaked everywhere over many years. So just be warned, I wouldn't actually sort of store your watch in there because it's going to put the dust everywhere from the inner leather or suede or whatever it is they've used, so just keep that in mind. And the nice thing about this, it had a full service with Piaget in 2023, and it comes with all that paperwork, and I think off the top of my head the cost was something like £700. But all of that is photographed under the points of mention in the additional photos, so check those out. But let's show this awesome watch on wrist. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist with all the links in. This watch will fit up to about a 7.1-inch wrist, so there's a nice bit of room in there. And this is 34mm by 40mm lug to lug, so a very nice size. Only 9mm on the thickness and 20mm on the lugs. Now something worth mentioning is you can actually swap the bracelet out for a traditional strap. So you have spring bars there, and then underneath here you can see just about, if I can get it in focus, the gap in the case where the spring bars are. So you could swap it over if you wanted, and I think it would be really cool to have a continuous piece of leather made to your wrist size, so that way you still actually use the clasp on the case, if that makes sense. I think that would be very cool. But go check out this awesome watch on the website today. From there over to a Fizz Brunswick, but not just any Brunswick. This is the Jubilee edition with the royal purple dial. A very, very cool watch. And it looks fantastic. So let's take a closer look at this one. Now for the Fizz Brunswick Jubilee with that royal purple dial. Now this watch was originally made in 2022 to commemorate the Queen's Jubilee. And unfortunately, as a lot of you know, the Queen passed away during that year. So what Fizz did was produce as many as they had actually committed to, so all the orders they had at the time of the Queen's passing, and then halted production of any more and stopped the sales. So it was going to be limited in production anyway to the whole year, but that was cut short by the Queen's passing. So therefore there's even less of these than there were before. Now as we flip it over, you can see it says Jubilee Edition 2022, the number, because they're all numbered. We don't know the exact amount of how many were made. 1952, proudly stated right there, obviously 70 years in 2022. You've got that deep royal purple dial with those polished indices and polished hands, which in certain light sort of vanish within the dial. Still legible actually in the metal. I know the camera probably doesn't give it that look, and then when you catch other lights it just explodes. It's super, super cool. So this is the reference BS23800A. As we flip the watch around, you'll see that screw down case back, which is a screw down case back, believe it or not. It's just seamless. There's no indentations to sort of grab or anything like that. But the reference, inside is a manually wound ETA 7001. And this watch is from May 2022 with its box and paperwork, and comes paired on its royal purple leather strap, which is a very bright, bold look with this watch. But I will say it's surprisingly versatile, so don't be afraid to swap it around. A grey suede I think would look absolutely amazing on this and tone that sort of overall look down a little bit. But then again, if you're wanting that bright purple look, you've sort of got the boxes ticked right here. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Again, as you catch that light and move it around, you can just see how dynamic that dial is. So what you're looking at here is 38mm by 38mm by 43mm lug to lug, 11.5mm on the thickness and 20mm on the lugs. So go check out this awesome watch on the website today. From there over to a classic Panerai Luminor Marina. This is the model 1950 3-day automatic PAM 312, and it's fresh from a polish. So let's take a closer look at this one. Now we have the Panerai Luminor Marina. This is the 3-day automatic watch in 44mm, specifically the PAM 00312. So you can see you've got that classic Luminor sandwich dial with Luminor Marina stated at 12, Panerai at 6, date at 3, and running seconds at 9. A very nice classic layout, and in the 44mm case size, it's very demanding of its presence. You've got a polished bezel right there and brushed around the rest of the case. This has come back from a very light polish with our polishers, and they've done a beautiful job as always. As we flip it over, you're presented with an exhibition case back right there, and that is showcasing the automatic Panerai caliber P9000. Now this watch is from early circa 2010s, and something worth mentioning is these early P9000s have quite a loud rotor. So if I spin that round, I don't know if the camera caught that, but you can hear that rotor spinning around. So that's something just worth mentioning and keeping in mind. They're not the quietest movements actually on the wrist, but still a great movement nonetheless with that 3-day power reserve. As I say, this one is from circa 2010s. It doesn't come with any box or papers, unfortunately, but it's priced as such. It does come with its original worn leather strap, and we've got a replacement one, not by Panerai, and we've replaced the buckle, which is the original Panerai buckle, as you can see there. So it's ready to be worn and enjoyed, and as I say, fresh from that polish, it's ready to go at a wonderful price. So let's show this on wrist and talk dimension. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Now you know you're wearing a 44mm Panerai when it's on wrist, but then again, that is part of the charm and the design of Panerai. They are big watches. So this is 44mm by 53mm lug to lug, 17mm on the thickness, and 24mm on the lugs. So endless options for this one. Especially with Panerai straps, there's definitely loads of options. So go check this one out on the website today. From there over to a Kurono Tokyo, one that was released with a little bit of controversy because of how they handled this. It was supposed to be a women-only release, and it didn't sort of work out like that in the end. You can read more details of that in many articles. But this is a limited edition of 500 with a CG blue or a Tiffany blue dial. So let's take a closer look. Next up is a very attractive Kurono Tokyo. This is the Seiji blue. Or Tiffany blue, limited edition of 500 pieces. And as I say, when this was announced, it was met with some controversy due to how they handled it being a women-only release. That wasn't, as far as I'm aware, and I can just about remember it, that wasn't the controversy. It's how they handled the release itself, meaning a lot of people just ordered it who weren't women and used their partners' names. I mean, very obvious things that we can think of. The idea, I think, was cool. I think it could have been executed better, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, they scrapped that whole plan in the end and just did it as a normal release. They sort of caved and realised that they probably didn't do it very well, but there you go. So this is limited to 500, as I said, and it's the reference CU011 with that gorgeous dial and that classic Kurono Tokyo design. Beautiful leaf-style hands and those concentric circles around the outside, which catch the light beautifully in contrast against that dial. Magnificently? There you go, there's a new word for you. As we flip the watch around, you've got that beautiful soft polished case, rounded crown as you'd expect, and then everything on the case back right there, which is a screw down, and inside is an automatic Miyota 90S5. When this watch came to me, it was stop starting because it had been sat in storage pretty much since release. So we've had it fully serviced by our watchmakers prior to bringing it to the website. So it benefits from a fresh service, and obviously backed with our warranty, as all of our watches are. This watch is from October 2021, comes paired on its very bright white strap, which is definitely a bold look against that blue dial, but I will say it will look good on pretty much any strap. A nice brown or anything like that's going to work. And this comes with its full box and paperwork, including a nice little cup in the parcel. I mean, just have a look at the photos, everything's there. It's a very cool set, that is for sure. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimension. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. As you can see, very nice proportions at 37mm by 43.5mm lug to lug, only 11mm on the thickness and 20mm on the lugs. So go check out this watch on the website today. From there over to something you really don't see every day, and that is a Weiss. This is the standard issue field watch, but a super early one, new old stock from 2014 with the Los Angeles dial. Back when they were located in LA. So let's take a closer look at this one. So we have an awesome watch from Weiss. I always pronounce it wrong, so I apologize. In advance, I pronounce everything wrong, but this is a very cool standard issue field watch, as it's called, with the most important part. It is a early example from 2014, and it has the Los Angeles dial, so the LA dial, and these were done on the early examples that were actually made in LA. So very cool to see that on the dial, and again, it's very cool to see this in new old stock condition. The gentleman who bought it from the original owners actually back in 2014, and has just had it in storage ever since and never worn it. So even the strap and everything, as you can see, it's like new. It's incredible. And now we've flipped it around, you can see that very impressive movement right there. That is the manually wound Weiss caliber 1001, which is a slightly modified sort of ETA with all the details on the website, so go check that out. But very nicely done and very nicely finished as well. It's like an old Unitaz in a pocket watch, which I think is what it's based on. As I say, circa 2014, it comes with everything it came with from the manufacturer back then. And yeah, it's just ready to be picked up and enjoyed. And the opportunity to pick these up does not come up often, if at all, and it's priced less than the standard models today. So not only do you get one for less than what you'd have to pay for a new one, you're getting something far rarer and far more unique with that dial as well. And I kind of like how it looks with the logo and Los Angeles proudly stated down at 6 o'clock. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimension. In the interest of not wanting to obviously put too much crease on the strap, I'm going to sort of rest it against my wrist best possible. And I apologise as well, some of the photos, as you can see, is quite a reflective crystal, making it quite hard to capture sometimes. This is 42mm by 48.5mm lug to lug, 11.5mm on the thickness and 20mm on the lugs. So go check out this awesome modern field watch, which is now 10 years old, on the website today. From there to another very attractive vintage Tudor. This is a Tudor Oyster Prince 34mm 7965. Very, very cool, and a great gift to pick up for someone for Christmas or treat yourself. So let's take a closer look. Now on to a very attractive vintage Tudor. This is a vintage Tudor Oyster Prince in 34mm and features its beautiful tritium dial and tritium minute hand. The hour hand has been reloomed at some point, likely because the loom fell out, and unfortunately this is something that can happen with old watches, and some people choose to have it reloomed rather than leave it empty. And some places don't offer a colour matching service, which is where they mix up the luminescent material to make it more true to tritium than, you know, Luminova, which is obviously a sort of whiter yellowy colour than the sort of brown caramel coffee colour of this aged tritium on the dial. But thankfully it's not too prominent and not too distracting at all. So this is a reference 7965 from circa 1963. Really, really nice spun silver dial with the classic oyster case and the Rolex crown at 3 o'clock. As you flip it around, you're presented with a Rolex signed case back. As you can see, oyster case by Rolex, proudly stated. And as you open this one up, inside is an automatic ETA caliber 2484 that has undergone full service very recently as well. It is actually paired on a Rolex signed strap with a Rolex signed buckle, as you can see. Which is very nice to have, although I would personally swap this out for a brown, or but then again I put everything on brown suede, so I can't really talk. But this combination, definitely classic and definitely looks good. So not a huge amount more to say on this one, so let's show it on my wrist and talk dimension. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. As always, 34mm wears beautifully, but I am biased because I own a Rolex 6694, which is 34mm, and it's one of my favourite watches, and I wear a lot of watches even smaller than that. But anyway, this is 34mm by 40mm lug to lug, 11.5mm on the thickness, and quite a bit of that is in that heavily domed acrylic crystal, as you can see, which sits proudly atop the case. And you're looking at 19mm lugs with drilled lug holes to make strap changing nice and easy. So go check out this really nice watch on the website today. From there over to the Tag Heuer Carrera GMT 1964 re-edition WS2113, and this awesome watch comes with its box and paperwork as well. So let's take a closer look at this one. For a really awesome Tag Heuer, but Heuer signed Carrera 1964 re-edition. This is the GMT model, and at the time of recording this I have the standard automatic model on the website as well. This is the reference WS2113, and you have that gorgeous black dial, polished indices and hands, dated 3 o'clock, and a red tip second hand, which is very nicely placed with a white ring around the outside. I have to say this is one of my favourite sort of Tag Heuers from this era, and it's amazing that during this era they were producing arguably some of their worst watches, I've got to be honest, and yet at the same time something this good comes out of that era from them as well. I'm definitely a big fan of this. It's from February 2002 and actually comes with its box and paperwork as well, which is very nice to have on a very nice black Tropic Rally leather strap with its Heuer signed buckle. Now as we flip it over, presented with a very simple Heuer signed case back with the reference and serial there, and inside is the automatic ETA caliber 2893-2. Now some functionality that I have to explain, because every single one of these I've had, and I've had probably 6 or 7 at this point, all have had this little nifty thing that you got to figure out. So sometimes it will appear that the GMT hand is off or out of sync. What you have to do is have a little play around. So when you set it, you can see right now it's perfectly on in sync. When you set the GMT, which by the way is in the second position, going one way changes the GMT, going the other way changes the date. when you change the GMT, you have to go, and let's try and do this in focus, you have to go slightly over where you want to be. So let me explain this. Right now, let's say I wanted to set it to true GMT, as in I want it to demonstrate the time that the 24-hour time of what we're looking at. So right now we're almost 10 past 10. So what you have to do is go where you would need to be like that, but go slightly ahead. Let's see if I get this right. And then pull out the crown, and as you start going round, no, it didn't do it that time. Sod's law. Sod's law. Let's see if I can get it to demonstrate. So give me a second. Let's go back to where we were, and let's try again. So it's clearly playing ball, and it's not doing what these movements sometimes do. So let's go round again, and let's try again. I'll try and fast forward this bit of me just rambling. So you want to go slightly ahead of where you need to be. So if you look at that, that GMT is actually quite a bit ahead of where it should be based on this. It's now what we say is fallen out of sync. That can be concerning on some watches. On this one, it isn't. So now we're slightly ahead. When you pull out the crown and you start going around, you'll see the GMT stops moving. So it's stopped actually moving with the time. And it does that until it catches up. As you just saw, hopefully, when that minute hand passed 12, it then synced back up to itself. So now you can see we're back on sync. Hopefully that makes sense. Sometimes these movements have that little feature which can be, alarming at first. You can see it's all nicely there at 12, but it does sync itself back up. You just have to be aware that that's what happens sometimes. I've spoken with watchmakers. It's something to do with the gear train and how it processes that, and basically it just falls out of sync and then levels itself back out. I don't know, that's where we're at. So now that I've shown and demonstrated what I mean by the movement, and hopefully that made sense. Any questions, just let me know, but let's show it on wrist and talk dimension. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. It's always very funny when you're trying to demonstrate a little thing that a movement can do sometimes, and it doesn't actually do it for you, meaning it runs perfectly. So there you go, it's a good sign. Anyway, what you're looking at is 35mm by 43.5mm lug to lug, 10.5mm on the thickness, and 19mm on the lugs. So endless options for this one. Go check it out on the website today. From there to a watch I'd never heard of and never seen before, but it's really, really cool. And it has a really unique way of displaying the limited edition, because it's limited to 50, and the number of this one you'll be able to see. I'll explain in a second. But this is a Brevor and Wingard, I probably butchered that, limited edition light white. A very, very cool watch. So let's take a closer look at this one. Now on to this very, very cool watch. Now I butchered the pronunciation at the start of this bit, introducing it, so I'm not going to actually butcher it again. I'm going to leave it there. So this is the light model with that beautiful white dial with the texture on the inside and those syringe type hands. Really nice indices and a matching date, or contrasting I should say, black date wheel at 6 o'clock, which is very, very attractive and nicely done. As we flip the watch around, you'll see an almost concaved polished bezel followed by brushed sides and a nice attractive sign crown. And as you flip it over, again, a very nicely done case back, almost like a golf ball pattern around there. So inside this is an automatic Sellita SW300, and this watch is from January 2024 with its box and paperwork, and comes on its original strap with signed buckle. So just overall a very attractive watch. Now, as I mentioned, this has a unique way of demonstrating the limited edition, and what I have to say would be a very expensive way of doing it. So I'm quite surprised they did this, because it means each dial has to actually be unique, or at least printed uniquely. So this is a limited edition of 50, so how are they demonstrating that? If you look at the 50 marker, or 10 o'clock, you will see a white circle in the minute track, which isn't present on any other marker. And then if we look at number 32, you will see a black dot, which again is not visible on any other marker. Now that black dot would fit perfectly in that white dot. What this indicates is this is number 32 of 50, meaning each 50 of these watches will have that black dot in a different place along the minute track to show you which one out of 50 it is, which I think is a really cool way of doing it and not something I've actually seen before. I'm sure maybe someone could pull out something somewhere saying, this brand has done it, do let me know. But from my memory and what I've seen, I've never seen it displayed that way, and I think that's a really cool way of doing it. So well done to that brand to doing something actually unique. Let's show this on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist, very, very comfortable and nicely proportioned at 37mm by 43mm lug to lug. Only 10.5mm on the thickness and 18mm on the lug, so endless options for this one. And again, with that nice white dial, the amount of strap options you could switch and swap with are endless. So go check this one out on the website. From there over to a bronze Seagull, not just any old bronze Seagull. This is a Seagull 1963 60th anniversary bronze, limited to 750 with, as I say, the Seagull ST19, but with the upgraded swan neck regulator. Which is very, very nice. So let's take a closer look at this one. Now we have this awesome Seagull 1963 60th anniversary, released in 2023, obviously to represent the 60 years since 1963. This is a limited edition of 500 pieces in bronze, which actually looks really, really attractive. And the patina is beautiful and goes so well with that sort of off eggshell, goldeny toned dial that these have with the vibrant red on the seconds hand and the star at 12 o'clock. Very nicely done and very attractive. As we flip it over, solid screw down case back, and around the outside you'll see the limited edition number of 750. I'm sorry, at the start of this I think I said 500, I meant 750. And you can see the Seagull ST19, but that's not just any standard Seagull ST19. If you look at the balance up there and the regulator on it, it's got a swan neck regulator, which is that part that goes round. What it means is it can be regulated to a more refined level, basically to a tighter tolerance. It's not as easy to do because you no longer just have that simple, I forgot the name of it, Jesus Christ, the little bar that you can move around to regulate. It means you've got to go in at the side with a screw, and you can do super fine adjustment levels rather than, you know, knocking the bar back and forth. I've absolutely butchered that demonstration and explanation, but hopefully you get what I mean. And what I said in the intro is Seagull have done this movement, or I should say Studio Underdog have chosen to use this movement in their latest round 3 of their Series 1 chronographs. So they also have the swan neck there, which is very, very cool to see. So that is the watch 2023, box papers ready to go. It's paired on a nice brown strap with a gold-plated Hirsch buckle. So yeah, let's show it on wrist and talk dimension. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist, very nicely proportioned and very comfortable, but then I'd expect that having had quite a few of these Seagulls over the years. This is 38mm by 44.5mm lug to lug, 13mm on the thickness and 18mm on the lugs. So go check out this nice limited edition watch on the website today. From there to a 1975 Caravelle waterproof blue, 38mm, obviously the model's called waterproof, it is not waterproof, please do not go in water with this watch, but the nice thing about this, it comes with its box and paperwork as well, and the dial is fantastic, and Caravelle connection to Bulliver, they're often made by Bulliver, so let's take a closer look. Now for a very attractive Caravelle, and I'm going to do waterproof in quotation marks like that, so you know it isn't waterproof, the model is just called waterproof, because in 1975, this would have been a very water resistant watch compared to what traditionally watches were. That being said, it definitely wouldn't have still been waterproof, not by traditional, or today's standards, I should say, obviously. Things were very different back then, but this is a reference 9018-1, and it has that really nice soft blue dial with those vibrant pops of orange throughout. A very, very attractive looking watch. And it has that nice black friction fit bezel, so it rotates freely either way, depending on which way you want it to go. And you've got this very flat, sort of almost cushion case, which is made of chrome. As we flip the watch around, you're presented with a screw down case back right there with everything proudly stated using the same serial number sequence that Bulliver use, because these watches were made by Bulliver. And this one is actually from December 1975. It was bought, I believe, a couple of days before Christmas, so clearly a last minute Christmas gift in 1975. I love it when you've got paperwork that can show those sort of things and you can sort of build what the story would have been based on that. But yeah, kind of amazing to have its little box and its little papers, and this watch has been kept all together and in very nice condition. Clearly it was a special gift, or unfortunately a very unwanted gift, because the owner from 1975 didn't wear it, and it's remained relatively in very good condition, all things considered, especially as it's chrome. If you absolutely wear the living hell out of it, you'd know. It comes actually paired on a vintage Tropic rubber strap, which also looks fantastic, and it's very nice to see these older Tropic rubbers on the watches. But yeah, that's it. Let's show it on wrist and talk inside is a manually wound Caravelle 11DP. So that's the movement inside. But let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Very, very large for the time, I would say, especially with those flat lugs. As you can see from the side profile, it wears really well. This is, in terms of size, 38mm by 45mm lug to lug, only 10mm on the thickness, so it sits nice and flat on the wrist, and 20mm on the lugs. So go check out this very cool watch on the website today. And hey, with December coming up, maybe this could be another Christmas gift all those years later. How cool would that be? From there over to one of my favourite Steinarts I've actually had in stock. This is the Steinart Ocean 39 Vintage GMT Premium with the ETA movement. Very, very nicely done and really great proportions. So let's take a closer look at this one. And now for a very attractive Steinart. This is the Ocean 39 GMT, part of the premium range. So it features a higher grade of movement and a better bezel and things like that. This is a very nice sort of faded almost ceramic bezel with faux patina inlay, and that faux patina is also on that dial, the matte black dial. It's very, very attractive with almost that pencil GMT hand and a big crown over here, again emulating early Rolex. And the Steinarts, typically, you know, they're pretty much direct homages of Rolex, right? And this is no exception. Obviously, it's a direct homage of a vintage GMT. But I don't mind that, personally. So let me explain. Homages seem to be a heated subject. At the end of the day, wear what you like. If you don't like homages, don't wear homages. Simple. If you do, here's a great option. So for me, when a watch is paying homage to a vintage watch, something that even if you had all of the means in the world, they're not the easiest to find in great condition. And then also, I know a lot of people with those kind of means who also don't want to spend that kind of money. This is a great option for someone like that who just wants that vintage look but doesn't want to have to fork out all that money or go finding it. Now that is part of the fun, in my opinion, of vintage watches. It's why I love vintage, but I get that isn't for everyone. You know, some people want to know they can actually wear it and not worry about it getting it bashed up, going in water, those kind of things. You're not going to do that with a vintage watch, or at least I highly recommend you don't. So this again ticks a few boxes. And then there's just the reality. Some people do not have the means to ever be able to afford those vintage, in this case, a vintage Rolex GMT, but still want to sort of appreciate the aesthetic. This is for those people as well. So I'm not opposed to it, and I think for people who get very offended by it, you need to calm down a little bit. There's more important things in the world, and this is just a bit of fun that isn't going to break the bank and actually is pretty damn good, so give it a chance. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, it comes on a Oyster bracelet with a folding clasp with a safety lock, which is all milled, which is very nice. Exhibition case back right there with the golden plated rotor, and that's an automatic ETA caliber 2893-2. And this one's from February 2020 with its box and paperwork ready to be worn and enjoyed. There is a small nick on the crystal, which if I get the right light, you can sort of see it where GMT is. Hopefully you can see that anyway. I've added it in the additional photos and it's mentioned in the points of mention on the listing itself. And that goes without saying. Always read the listing, especially the points of mention. That is where, as the name suggests, all of the important points of mention are there. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimension. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. It's very nice and very comfortable at 39mm by 47mm lug to lug. 14mm on the thickness and 19mm on the lugs with drilled lug holes right there. So go check out this very attractive and very affordable watch on the website today. And last but by no means least, a very fun watch by Noon, I think is how you pronounce it. This is the Origin N1837 with the Tiffany dial, carbon black, obviously a Nautilus sort of homage, I guess you'd call it. And this brand first came to me when someone forwarded me a photo of Mark Wahlberg wearing a watch, saying, what is he wearing? And it was one of these with the green dial. And now we have the blue. So if you want to be Mark Wahlberg, here you go. Let's take a closer look. And talking about homages, this is definitely a homage to the Nautilus, but kind of like nothing they do. So there you go. If you wanted this look from a Rolex Nautilus, you'd have to be modifying it, and that feels a bit wrong in my opinion. So go for something like this, which is very, very cheap and gives you a hell of a lot of fun for the money. This is the Noon Origin N1837, limited to 200 pieces total with that Tiffany coloured dial with the Arabic numerals, the black hands and the sub-seconds at 6 o'clock. And you've got this black plastic carbon case. It's got some like composition that they do. Carbon X Tech, you can read more about that on their website. And yeah, limited to 200, and I've only just noticed that this is number 69, so there you go. And these are designed in Bahrain, and inside is the quartz Miyota caliber 1L40, and this one's from June 2023 with its box and paperwork, and comes on its original rubber strap. And again, you know, these are a lot of fun, and when you see the price, I think it makes it even more fun. As I said in the intro, Mark Wahlberg's been seen wearing the green version of this. It doesn't really make a difference to me, but it's cool that, you know, he has some incredible watches and some of the top watches you'll ever see from the top brands, and yet still found enjoyment with something like this, and it seems to be something he does. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. You can see very nicely proportioned and very comfortable, and because of the case material and the rubber strap, it's so light. I can see why someone as active as Mark Wahlberg, you know, gymming it all day every day, would wear a watch like this. It actually makes a lot of sense. This is 40.5mm by 47mm lug to lug, 10.5mm on the thickness, and 17mm at the inner bit of the lugs, but obviously the strap flares out, so I'd be keeping it on the strap personally. So go check it out on the website today. So there you have it, this week's watches. Yeah, there really is something for everyone. I look forward, as always, to hearing what's your favourites down in the comments. A lot of you can never choose one, so let me know which one is your favourite. And as I say, as always, head over to the website, read the full details. Everything is always explained in detail, and sometimes I miss points or things in these videos because they're unscripted, as you can probably tell, right? I do them off the cuff and over on my screen, and when I do the actual watch hand bit that you see, all I have is like the reference, the serial, the dimensions, the movement, the age, those kind of things. Everything else I do off the cuff, so I apologize for any mistakes, obviously, but also head to the website. That's where everything is. These are just to give you a little bit extra, and I think it's very important for you to be able to see the watch dynamically in the lights, and it's always natural light. There's no editing that goes into these. I keep it raw. So there you go. We'll see you all again next Saturday for another probably 12 watches. Yes, and there's some very cool things in that week's drop. I'm excited to bring it to you all. So we'll see you then. Take care.